So, how are you doing? Is this a whirlwind tour to the UK?
Yes, a bit, but I mean, it's wonderful. I'm extremely nervous, just to put that out there. But I'm ready to answer questions.
I'm going to do tough ones. I'm going to get right in there. Do you have much of a relationship to the UK, to London, to England?
Yes, I do. I filmed most of Barbie here, so I was here the whole time, and I was actually I knew I wanted to work with the costume designer Jacqueline Duran again, who I'd worked with on Little Women, and a very wonderful set designer, Sarah Greenwood, who also works here. So I knew I wanted to shoot here, and then and actually no one else knew that the movie I wanted to make took place inside of sound stages. Like they thought, oh, you need an actual beach, and I was like, no, nothing exists. I need to build it, and that's when I realized no one knows actually what's in your head at all. So
we're going to try and get in there. So with the run of movies that you've directed since Lady Bird, Little Women and Barbie, as a director you've had 3 films in a row that have been critical successes, audience hits and commercially successful. For me and everyone else, how do you do that?
Honestly, I've just been so lucky with kind of the thing in my heart has sort of corresponded to some secret wish that it seems to exist in the world. So I feel very honestly, it just makes me feel extremely connected to everyone. I mean, of course, it's lovely to get nice notices, but feeling an audience answer something is the most gratifying thing, because it makes you feel less alone. Is that you make something that it might feel strange, or will anybody else like this, and then people say yes, I would like it, and so I don't know. That's not an answer really. It's moving.
Well, it's a tough and maybe slightly facetious question. The sort of how do you do it? 'Cause it's hard, right? But a less facetious way of asking it is like, how do you? Is there something you feel inside you when you know that you must have had at each of those points, a number of things you could have pursued? Have you got a lodestar, a thing which makes you think, oh no, that's the one this time for right now?
Yeah, in a way, it's sort of. I'm not quite so. It's almost like an inkling or a feeling. I think I had. Lady Bird, I was writing it for a number of years, and I felt it sort of bubbling up inside. And then with the Little Women and with Barbie, it was it feels more like things reveal themselves to me. I mean, I loved the book of Little Women. I had a relationship with Barbie. There were things I was interested in, but it's almost like some sense of just leaning in slightly to whatever an idea is, and it feels like honestly, you really start sort of dreaming about it, and then it kind of doesn't leave you alone, and then that's the way that you're pulled in. But I'm not quite so, I don't always know something's going to be a good idea. I just know I can't shake it yet, and that's the way I decide to sort of continue to pursue it. But it's not strategic, really. I wasn't thinking like, and then I'll make Barbie. It was like I just kept leaning into it, and it was something intriguing and sort of, it felt kind of impossible, and that was exciting. But it's, I don't have a checklist or anything. And then there's always a point where I think, I guess the biggest thing is once I have the script is like, I'll know that I like what the script I've written is, so then it feels worth, like, I want to see it realized. But there's always a point when I'm writing a script when I think, it's a simultaneous feeling of like, this is sort of embarrassing because I feel very exposed by it, but I am also hoping that maybe I'm terrified no one feels this way, but I also hope maybe other people do. So it's kind of this, there's a slight feeling of like standing naked in front of your class and feeling a little nervous.
And you started your career relatively young, right? And looking at it from right now, it feels like this curve up towards success. It doesn't always necessarily feel that to the person to whom it's happening. Can you give us just a taste of what it's felt like in your career? Were there any moments where you had decisions to make, or there were paths you did or didn't take, which have felt significant when you look back?
Sure. Yeah. No, I didn't feel when I was graduating from school,
From university?
And from college. I mean, you call it university, but I feel like a faker when I say that. My university years. Nope. We go to college. But when I was in college, I decided, at that point, I was working in theater, really, but doing like lights and sound, and I did stage management, and I just decided that the thing I really wanted to do was to be in the worlds of either theater or film. I love actors, I love writers, I love directors, I love production designers. I like show people. They feel like the community I just wanted to be part of. And I figured I would sort of do whatever anyone needed done, which was it wasn't so much like, oh, I have a sense of like it's got to be acting or it's got to be writing or it's got to be directing. It was like, how do I what's necessary? How do I get in there and do anything? And so I think for me it was like it was a progression towards directing, but I think it was not necessarily like it's that or bust. It was just like, what can I do? And I didn't get into, I applied for graduate school for playwriting, and I didn't get in anywhere. And then I was lucky enough to sort of, movies, independent films were kind of opening up in a certain way because of digital, being able to shoot on pretty good-looking things on digital cameras, and that was a big transformation. Also, that Final Cut was on computers.
Okay.
So it was like this, you had the ability to make a movie with less. And so theater ended up being a door that felt closed to me, but movies felt kind of like the Wild West, and like you could do anything. But I had day jobs until I was 26.
Okay.
So I didn't make a living at it for a long time. And I think the thing I just kept doing was going to the thing that felt scariest and most alive. And that at some point became writing and directing.
Good.
I keep feeling like you have the real answer, and that I'm somehow not.
You're hitting every single one right. It's
Okay,
just tick, tick.
But I'm like, oh no, you got your own life wrong.
We're going to do some clips. The first one, I guess we would say that, so as you mentioned, you did those a lot of movies, like 10, 11, 12 independent movies in that New York time. Mm-hmm. Then you hit a run of maybe bigger movies, Greenberg, To Rome with Love. But we're going to look at a scene from Frances Ha, which you co-wrote and came out in 2012.
Oh my God, he's like the most beautiful creature.
He's in the 90th percentile for height and 95 for weight.
But it evens out later when they walk. It doesn't mean he'll be fat.
You're getting a phone call.
It'll be fine.
It's so funny when people have kids and they're all, I used to be so focused on me and now I'm totally not. It's like, no, it's still you. It's half you. It's a mini you. I mean, you made it. I forgot to eat today.
The only time you ever hear the phrase, I'm not here to make friends, is on reality television.
It's so
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm trying to not drink right now.
I'm very sorry.
Don't be sorry, you're not the one who's batshit crazy after 4 vodkas.
No, it's Janelle that had a hard time giving it up when she was pregnant.
I did. Yeah, I totally understand.
really hard at it. It's difficult.
What do you do?
What?
What do you do? It's such a stupid question. I thought I'd ask it.
Oh, no, I'm a lawyer. What do you do?
That's such a stupid question. Just kidding. It's kind of hard to explain.
Because what you do is complicated?
Because I don't really do it. I'm a dancer, I guess.
Francis and I are in the same company.
But Rachel's in the main company. I'm an apprentice. Hopefully the touring company soon. I have a meeting with Colleen on Monday morning.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But things are really great. Rachel and I have a really cool apartment. Or Rachel does, and I'm staying there for 6-ish weeks.
5.
Right, 5, yeah. But everything's kind of up in the air right now. I like being alone. I just got back from Sacramento.
Oh, Andy and Janelle just got back from Paris.
6.5 hours on a plane with a baby. Won't be doing that again soon. But it was heaven.
Did you ever get to Paris?
No, not really. Kind of once. Actually, no. What's that museum with the escalators and tubes?
The Pompidou.
Yeah!
Oh, they have this great place in the 6th.
No, it's a little pied-à-terre.
Literally.
Yeah, but it's a really special place.
It's just so hard to get to spend any time there since I got the job with the Journal and the baby.
I'd love to go to Paris. I'll bet it's magic. My friend from college, Abby, who moved there with her boyfriend because he works at a bank. In college, she was one of the top 5 group of friends, but then Zoe became closer to the group and Abby kind of moved to the outer circle. Sophie and Abby never totally got along. And then she started dating Paul, who I always thought would have dated any of us, but he ended up with Abby.
Well, if you're ever there, we'd like for it to be you.
Yeah. I don't see myself getting there super soon, but
Just now.
thanks.
Well, that is a very sexy dress. Fuck, I sound like a gay grandmother.
Francis, I think you know one of my colleagues at Goldman, Reed Patch Krause.
Yeah, I know, Pat. Sup, brah?
That's him. Nobody is better at anticipating the inflection points than Patchy.
His girlfriend Sophie and I are the same person with different hair. Not really. We went to college together, and we used to take the train into the city on weekends and make bad decisions.
You got pregnant?
No. What? No.
She's a great lady. I really like her. So smart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're all smart.
Yeah, but she's book smart.
She's actually not. She doesn't really read, except for work, which is the funny thing.
She seems like she reads a lot to me.
I read way more. I don't know why I'm shit-talking Sophie. She's basically the best person I know.
It's kind of crazy though, right?
Yeah. Which part?
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah, they're moving to Japan in a couple of weeks.
Wait, what?
Patch got transferred. It's a really cool position. He's going to be the director of research for all the Asian markets.
For how long?
Indefinitely.
But Sophie has a job at Random House.
She quit.
Oh.
Pilates thing is you feel so good.
Francis and I do a lot of yoga. It's good for dance. It's fun to go with somebody too.
Yeah.
Have a friend to go with.
Great, yeah? Great scene. Do you want to just tell us what it's like going in on a day? I guess we're thinking about you as a director and then as an actor too. I mean, it's a great scene. What's it feel like for you going in on a day when you've got a big dialogue scene like that to do? How do you prepare as an actor? What's your preparation?
Well, this movie, which I wrote with Noah Baumbach, and he directed it. Obviously, I'm in it. We had.
Let's go a little deeper.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep saying things that are true. No, but we have. I think when I was starting out, I had a lot of movies I did where it was very improvisation heavy, and then I sort of moved totally away from that. And I think in some ways that was. I've never gotten tired of the way writing sounds when it's spoken. I think it's the thing I first fell in love with, so then it's the thing that I kind of gravitated towards when I started making my own work. And when I wrote this with Noah and we made it, it was the first time I felt like I'd made something that was the nearest representation of kind of what I was going for at that moment, that I felt expressed something that I hadn't yet done to that point. And and so the language is super precise. Like it's written to sound casual, but it's not casual, and it's very it's like if you miss a word, the rhythm goes off. So I think for me with this one, I'd spent time writing it with Noah, and he always thought I was going to play Francis, but I kind of had this. In a way, I almost needed to not imagine myself playing Francis in order to write it because it was too scary otherwise. And then I mean, for me, the language is sort of everything. I would say it's, in a way, as an actor, I actually get confused when the language is not as important because I don't know how to get into it in a way. So for me, it's like the language provides everything because you can obviously there's different ways to play moments, but they have this sort of musical sadness which I am always interested in, and I mean I love that scene. I love everyone in it, and when I look at it, it actually reminds me I haven't acted like that in a while, and I don't know that I could anymore in that same way because it just you know, you get into a particular zone as either a writer or a performer or a director, and it felt like I was living in a space that was very, I felt who I was as an actor felt extremely accessible to me then. And I mean, I'd love to be able to do it again, but I feel sort of out of that headspace right now. But yeah, Noah and I, in particular, because I've worked with him 4 times as an actor, and we get into almost like it's our own language or our own world or our own channel, and he'll give very specific color, like a note just shading this way or that way. And it's a very pleasurable thing to get into, but we can do it. It can go. He does lots of takes.
Does he?
So yeah, dozens and dozens of takes.
How many might you have done of that?
I think we shot that scene for 2 days. So yeah. I mean, I actually, for Francis, there was a scene with the character Sophie and I in a bathroom.
Yeah.
I think we did 50 takes of it, and I wrote a piece for the New York Times where I went through every single take. It was one shot, so it had to be. It wasn't like there was coverage or anything, and I went through every single one, and tried to talk about like what was my experience of making it, and then when I was looking at it, what's my I can see what wasn't quite right about it. So yeah, it's, I mean, I think as a performer, just I always feel safest when there's language that I understand.
And so so learning the lines is super important, and
Yes.
and you can,
Yeah, and I think that's also the way that I get into my physical self in it is once I have the language, then it settles enough in my body that I stop being, I mean, I don't know. My experience of being an actor is just being, I saw one of these sort of situations with the Dardenne brothers, the filmmakers, and they said something like, they were talking about rehearsing with their actors, and they said it takes about 2 weeks for actors to not be embarrassed of their bodies. And I thought that's right. There's something embarrassing about making choices as a character that you kind of have to work through and let go. So I feel like once I have the language and I let it settle, and once I get over the discomfort of you know, making bold choices, but yeah, it all kind of comes through words.
But you trained as a dancer as well?
Yes, I did dance. Not like Francis danced, but I loved dancing.
And that's obviously physical, but you feel verbal. And do you think does that physicality, that training, did that help when you moved into directing in terms of thinking about where bodies go in space and so on?
Yes, it did, and it also I think choreographing groups of people came naturally to me because of that, and then seeing the camera as another person that was dancing in the space. I felt like with Lady Bird, I was actually, I kind of made rules for myself about how I was going to move the camera or not move the camera because, well, I kind of had an image of Lady Bird like that. I wanted it to be almost like stained glass painting or stained glass windows in churches where it's like each scene of all of the things, they're like, no, he's fallen. Wait, he got up. You know, like that each scene is like a different. And I sort of was, because it's Catholic school and all of that, I was sort of like thinking of everything as like sort of a presentation within a frame. And I think I also gave myself that rule because it was, you know, I was scared and it was overwhelming. So I was like, okay, think of every shot as composed within this. And I didn't move the camera very much because it felt wrong. But then when I got to Little Women, I had the opposite feeling. I felt like I wanted the camera to be alive and curious and a dancer. Like I almost wanted the camera to start young and then get older, like the girls did. So there was a lot more movement. I tend to like cameras that move on, you know, either on a dolly, either on a track, more than I like Steadicam, because I get kind of confused about where we're meant to be, but I like sort of composing shots that move on wheels. I love wheels. Great invention. And then when I got to, but I wanted it to feel more sort of caught. And then when we got to Barbie, I kind of wanted it to be, again, presentational, but out of a totally different, like drawing from a different aesthetic, which was more, you know, soundstage musicals and that look and feel. But I think how the camera is breathing to me and moving and interacting or not interacting or holding back or coming in it's as important of blocking as anything. And it's not just for what the image is on screen, which of course I care about, but what's almost the philosophy of how the camera's moving all the time. And that feels more delicate. And I think coming at it from dancing helps me think about it. So it's less a machine and more of a person.
Should we have a look at a clip from Lady Bird now, and we can see how still you kept the frame in this one?
Pretty still, guys.
Do you think I look like I'm from Sacramento?
You are from Sacramento.
You don't have to do that.
Well, it's nice to make things neat and clean. You ready to go home?
Ready?
Her hand moved behind his head and supported it. Her fingers moved gently in his hair. She looked up and across the barn, and her lips came together and smiled mysteriously.
You've been listening to The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. If you...
Our college trip took 21 hours and 5 minutes.
Hey, wait, let's just sit with what we heard.
Are you serious?
Well, we don't have to constantly be entertaining ourselves, do we?
I wish I could live through something.
Aren't you?
Nope. The only exciting thing about 2002 is that it's a palindrome.
Okay, fine. Well, yours is the worst life of all, so you win.
Oh, so now you're mad?
No, it's
because
just you're
I
being
wanted
ridiculous
to listen to
because you
music.
have a great life.
I'm sorry, I'm not perfect.
No one's asking you to be perfect. Just consider it would do.
I don't even want to go to school in this state anyway. I hate California. I want to go to the East Coast.
Your dad and I will barely be able to afford in-state tuition.
There are loans,
Your brother,
scholarships.
your very smart brother, he can't even find a job.
He and Shelley work. They have
They
jobs.
bag at the grocery store. That is not a career, and they went to Berkeley. Your father's company is laying off people right and left. Did you even know that? No, of course you don't, because you don't think about anybody but yourself. An immaculate heart is already a luxury.
Immaculate fart. You wanted that, not me.
Miguel saw someone knifed in front of him at Sac High. Is that what you want? So you're telling me that you want to see somebody knifed right in front of you?
He barely saw that. I want to go where culture is,
But
like
how in
New
the world
York,
did I raise such a
or at least
snob?
Connecticut or New Hampshire,
Well,
where
you
writers
couldn't
live in the
get
woods.
into those schools anyway.
Mom.
You can't even pass your driver's test.
Because you wouldn't let me practice
The way
enough.
that you work, or the way that you don't work, you're not even worth state tuition, Christine.
My name is Ladybird.
Well, actually, it's not, and it's ridiculous.
Call me
because your name
Ladybird
is
like
Christine.
you said you would.
You should just go to City College. You know, with your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
I want to ask you about editing and that. But first of all, will you just indulge me as a writer and just tell me, that's a solo credit?
Yes, yeah.
And will you tell us, just give us 2 minutes on your writing routine, where you like to work and how you work as a writer?
Oh, well, I mean, writing is, it's like the thing that I most enjoy having done, and that feels painful while I'm doing it. Writing feels painful to me, in some deep way. Like it's. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I'm afraid so, because it's sort
okay.
of great when you've done it, and it can have nice moments. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. No, it's like I don't know. It's sort of like, I mean, first of all, you're by yourself and it's quiet and and like every voice you've ever had in your head that tells you like you're not very good is extremely loud, and then you're like no just wait, and then you write something and it's not so good and the voices are like, well, and you're like, I've got to keep going, and so it's this like negotiation. I feel like the way I work is I kind of collect things over time, like I mean, at least this is sort of so far, it's like I'll collect little moments or things or lines or something that feels interesting to me, and this is whether I'm adapting something or writing something totally from scratch, and then that pile will grow, and then it starts to feel like it has some shape underneath it. I mean, I'll work, I like working in public, but at some point it felt like I was doing performance art because I was like writing my screenplay and I was like, oh no. And then I felt like people were like, what you working on? And I'm like, nothing, good. But I always liked writing in libraries because I like people's energy, but they don't like it when you fall asleep in a library, which I often fall asleep when I'm writing. Or that's sort of wild, but I feel like I write for a while, and then like part of me gets very tired, and I like put my head on the desk, and I nap for like 10 minutes, and then I kind of jolt awake, and but I feel like I always have to sneak up on writing. Like it's not something, like if I approach it head on, it's too scary. So I feel like I'm always creating these strategies to sneak up on it, like waking up, doing it first thing before you're like, the voices have woken up, they get up later. So you're like, you're not awake yet, I'll get some out. And then kind of trying to, like in between moments, because when I was writing Frances, I would write in makeup chairs on sets or like different things. Like it was sort of kind of this like illicit romance I was having, and it was like stolen moments, which was a way to kind of trick myself into it. So it's like a lot of different things. There is a wonderful moment when you've got enough stuff and the thing seems to want to exist, when it sort of all, it's not there yet, but it's kind of all like shimmering in front of you, and you can kind of feel what the whole thing is, and that's a great moment. And then it feels like it's all coming extremely fast, and it's like you're in the dream. But everything leading up to that moment is like if someone was like, try to saw off your toe with this laptop. You're like, I don't want to. That's too hard.
And it's good. It's and good tips. I know lots of writers who need that sneaky up thing, writing late at night, or at times when they can feel that internal editor turned off a bit, or no one's around. Yeah, and the edit. We didn't have the very next shot, which I think is either a cast or and it's a really hard cut. It's funny. It also lets you know, oh God, this thing which could have killed someone, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You've had the same editor on the last 3 films you've directed.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about how do you love the edit? Is it a good time?
Yeah, I mean, the edit is actually, I mean, everything.
No more sawing off of body parts?
Yeah, no. I mean, writing I think is the most painful, but it's the thing, I mean, it sounds like, sort of, it's the thing, like, you got to go into the, first of all, the treasure's always guarded by the dragon. Like, they are not just leaving treasure around. So you gotta go to, and you don't go in with other people. You go in alone, and it sucks. And that's like, right, it's like, you gotta go. And then you've got it. And then you're like, oh, I get to go get actors and a DP. And like, it's like, then it's so fun. Like, you've got this treasure, and then you get to keep making the movie, which is wonderful. So it's just the writing part where it's my experience of it. Maybe one day I'll love it. I wish I could, like, but it's scary for me. I don't know, maybe it's, anyway. So when I'm editing, it does have, it's wonderful because I love my editor. I've worked with him on all 3 movies, and you're sitting together for months on end, and
you're one of those, you don't give him a bunch of notes and then go and walk around the block. You're in there and watch him cut. Yeah,
I watch him cut. And I was going to say we've never gotten annoyed with each other, but I don't actually know if that's true for him. I know it's true for me. I mean, he's just, he's very calm. He's very rigorous. He really takes on, when we start showing it, notes and feedback in a way that, I've really almost learned from him how to do it, which, I think instead of resisting it, he really leans into and then what part didn't work for you and why, and probably my ego is like, don't, just run away, run away and just don't ask, and he's like, no, we have to really dig in and find out what's not working, and so I feel like I've gained a lot from him, but I think as a writer, and I think this goes to the sort of precision of writing is, I like that cut at the end after she falls out of the car and then it cuts to the cast. That was written in the script. That was a cut. So a lot of cuts I write in because I think in a way, because I started off in independent film, you can spend ages working on your script and it's free. Like, that part's free.
Yeah.
So you can really try to get very precise with it, as so that what you want to shoot, and be kind of critical of it and work it. And I think I also got that from writing with Noah Baumbach, who's extremely he's ruthless with his scripts. So I think that was the other. So I kind of had that as a template.
And you don't have a ton of material that's not been seen. You don't write overly long.
I do, but then I cut.
But then you cut script,
yeah.
not in the edit.
Yeah. Most of my movies are pretty near close what the scripts look like. I mean, yeah, there's some things missing, but I tend to really write, things unfold the way they unfold. I find it again in the edit, but I find it as it was in the script, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to leave plenty of time to talk about Barbie, which is obviously, I mean, we're all cineasts here and we want to talk about Truffaut, but I think we can call Barbie's a monster hit. So we need time to talk about it.
Okay.
But I want to just very quickly touch on Little Women. So let's see the Little Women clip. We can just chat about that, and then we'll have some time to talk about Barbie.
Okay. Get ready for camera moves, y'all.
Is that how you speak on set?
Yeah, just like that.
I'm a failure. Joe is in New York being a writer, and I'm a failure.
That's quite a statement to make at 20.
Well, Rome took all the vanity out of me, and Paris made me realize I'd never be a genius, so I'm giving up all my foolish artistic hopes.
Why should you give up, Amy? You have so much talent and
Talent isn't genius. And no amount of energy can make it so. I want to be great or nothing, and I will not be some commonplace dauber, and I don't intend to try anymore.
What women are allowed into the Club of Geniuses, anyway?
The Brontes?
That's it?
Yes, I think so.
And who always declares genius?
Men, I suppose.
They're cutting down the competition.
That's a very complicated argument to make me feel better.
Do you, though? Do you feel better?
I do think, male or female, I am of middling talent.
Middling talent. May I ask your last portrait be of me?
All right.
Now that you've given up all your foolish artistic hopes,
Mm-hmm.
what are you going to do with your life?
Polish up all my other talents and become an ornament to society.
That's where Fred Vaughn comes in, I suppose.
Don't make fun.
I said his name. You're not engaged, I hope.
No.
But you will be if he goes down properly on one knee.
Most likely, yes. He's rich, richer than you, even.
I understand queens of society can't get on without money, although it does sound odd from the mouth of one of your mother's girls.
I've always known I would marry rich. Why should I be ashamed of that?
There's nothing to be ashamed of, as long as you love him.
Well, I believe we have some power over who we love. It isn't something that just happens to a person.
I think the poets might disagree.
Well, I'm not a poet. I'm just a woman. And as a woman, there's no way for me to make my own money. Not enough to earn a living or to support my family. And if I had my own money, which I don't, that money would belong to my husband the moment we got married. And if we had children, they would be his, not mine. They would be his property. So don't sit there and tell me that marriage isn't an economic proposition, because it is. It may not be for you, but it most certainly is for me. Oh, that's Fred. Can you unbutton me, please? Thank you. How do I look? Do I look all right?
You look beautiful. You are beautiful.
Yeah, not a huge amount in that, but overall, people will remember.
No, but it's breathing.
It's
oh, we're talking about the camera. Oh,
yes.
that's what it was, yeah. No, it just it just
Go on.
follows them as they go. Like, meaning it's not just static and they're moving within it. It's allowing it to breathe. But this is when they're older. When they're younger, it's swirlier.
Yeah, everyone who knows the film will, I think, know what you're talking
This
about in
is,
terms of how you would. Yeah,
this
go
is
on.
sad camera. It's like.
There really should be a glossary for the technical terms you're throwing at them, but
Look it up, sad camera. No.
But I think everyone who knows the film will see that how you attacked it and let that camera have all that flair. And also, you did the same thing with the narrative of what is, especially in the US, a real venerable text that's been done on stage and been shot a few times. Was it the love of the material? How did you make yourself feel so free to adapt it?
Well, I mean,
successful way.
In a way, it came out the sort of same way we were talking about. Like, I mean, I'd read the book a lot when I was young. It was one of my favorite books. And then I hadn't read it again until I was about 30. And I just, it's like when you revisit something that meant something to you when you were young, and then you encounter it when you're older. There were things in it that I never heard or that I didn't register. And I think mostly when people think about Little Women, what they're thinking about is the first half of the book, which is when they're girls. And it was the second half of the book that I was like, this is incredible. And I'm particularly the character of Amy. I mean, so many of the lines I just took straight from the text is her saying, I want to be great or nothing. That's what she says. And I always felt that she'd been treated as this frivolous character, like she was not She wasn't as serious as Joe. It was just sort of a hobby. And I thought, no, it's not. This meant something to her. And that she sort of has, and I think, I mean, what she's saying of like, you know, what, realizing the limitations of her own talent and her own abilities, that's painful. I mean, that's a painful grown-up thing to go through. So I think I started taking these moments that were speaking to me differently. And really what I saw was this kind of conversation between them as adults, them as children, and then who Louisa May Alcott actually was and what her sister and her life actually was. And in a way, the fact that it had been adapted so many times up until this point became almost like I wasn't just adapting the text as text, I was adapting every version of it. Like there was kind of an text, which is a memory. And so even like when we shot in our movie, when she sees Professor Bear under the umbrella, I made a flip book of every film adaptation that had the two of them under an umbrella, because it's part of this memory of what that means, and it's made up. I mean, she never, it was in the book, but she never, you know, she never got married, she never had children. Her publisher wanted her to end it this way, and she did, because it was an economic decision. And what's funny about that scene is, I remember when I wrote that scene, and you know, just you get notes along the way, and people were like, "Oh, why are they talking about art?" and like it should be like about falling in love. And I was like, well, sometimes talking about art is falling in love. But I do feel like, you know, it's something that, you know, the only way I can describe it, it's almost like the thing starts glowing. Like I can see, you know, maybe I'm thinking of like, is it like in the Da Vinci Code where like texts start glowing? Or is that just like and I'm like, I'm seeing a pattern, you know? I don't know if that's true.
I guess I was thinking about your insistence on, well, not insistence, but the film's giving due weight to all the sisters, and in particular Amy and Joe, right? And maybe there's a parallel there with, I don't know, different ways of being a woman and insisting on or requesting that possibility, and Barbie. So should we watch a bit of Barbie?
Yes, yes. It's a song.
Will you just give us, it's been such a remarkable sensation, can you give us a sense of what it's felt like to be, I went to see it in Soho, and the crowd was almost like nothing I'd seen before in terms of the anticipation and the warmth in the room. Have you felt that yourself? Have you been to screenings and you've felt that from audiences?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's sort of like, I mean, I was invited to go on this journey originally. Margot Robbie came to me and said, you know, would you like to write this? And then once I had written the script, I said I wanted to direct it, and then we just, you know, she was obviously the producer and the star, and with her and David Heyman and Tom Ackerley, it like really just put together this incredible team of people, and the process of making it was such joy. I mean, every person on screen, every actor, every crew member, it was like the most joyful set I've ever been on, and I think that was true for a lot of people. It felt that way, and I don't know if it was the pink or you know, the music, but it was infectious. It was like, and so the process was so joyful that you know, I thought, well, if I can make a movie that's as you know, half or quarter as fun to watch as it was to make, I think maybe we've got a shot. And so to see that reflected back is the most, it's sort of what I said at the beginning. It's like this incredible sense of like, you know, the song that's in my heart is in other people's heart. And that just, it felt extraordinary. And really, on the opening weekend, I was in New York City, and I went around to different theaters and sort of stood in the back, and then also like turned up the volume if I felt it was playing at maybe not the perfect level, and inquired about bulbs in the screens, and everyone's like, "Get her out of here!" But it was just it was the most thrilling thing, you know. I love going to movies. I grew up going to movies, and it wasn't really until I was in college that I started going to that I started getting an education in more art house cinema and like cinema as a history. But growing up, I'd go to big movies at the big movie theater, and I think a part of me had always wanted to recreate that feeling from childhood of being in a dark room with a bunch of people, and it felt sort of like Hollywood or something, and so it was just it was so moving to me that was the thing that people experienced.
And I mean, now when we watch that, right, it feels like, oh, that was the way that you make a Barbie movie. It feels like that's the obvious and only way to make a Barbie movie. But before you had made the Barbie movie, it must have been quite a swing. It must have been it's a very bold set of choices that you took. And did you just start feeling writer and writer as you wrote and conceived?
Yes. I mean, I love the script we wrote, and that again, I think, I don't know if I said this exactly, but for me it's like once you've got a piece of writing that feels great, that's when there's a reason to make a movie. So I love the script we wrote, but yeah, I mean, I think this sequence in particular is just filled with choices that thrilled me and made me so happy. But then when I'd come home or like driving home from the end of the day, I'd think, oh no, I can't take it back. I mean, like when they arrive on the beach and I had every one of those Kens pretend to move in slow motion. We're not shooting it in slow motion. They're just going like, and then it just occurred to me, I was like, that could be just the most dreadful choice and no one will understand it. It will just be embarrassing for everyone. And also with like, I mean, there's so many things in it, like even the whole dream ballet, it just said in the script, like, and then it becomes a dream ballet and they work it out through dance. And there was like a big meeting that was like, do you need this? And I was like, everything in me needs this. And they were like, what do you even mean? What is a dream ballet? And I was like, a dream ballet? Well, where do I begin? I was like, the greatest dream ballet of all time is in Singing in the Rain, which has a dream ballet inside of a dream ballet. Yes, it is literally, he says, Gene Kelly is saying, I'm going to pitch this thing to you, and then you kind of go into his mind, which is a dream ballet, and then inside that, he sees Sid Charisse on the stairs, and then they go into another one. And it's like, and I was like, if people could follow that in Singing in the Rain, I think we'll be fine. I think people will know what this is. So that was kind of like a big reference point. But I think, even though everything felt right to me and was giving me so much joy in the way we were doing it, it was also like, yeah, every day I thought, oh no, this could be just terrible, but now I've committed. So I guess I hope I am taking these wonderful people to a good place and not a bad one. So yeah, but it was definitely scary. Yes, I also feel very, the call out of the BBC's Pride and Prejudice was entirely for me. That's my experience. And I was very honored that they said yes to that. That was it was a big deal. It was. They don't always say yes to because but anyway. So thank you to Jennifer Ely and Colin Firth. That was very lovely. Yeah, I mean, the writing, the sort of embroidering it with things that were really specific was part of the fun of everything. I mean, I would say probably in all my films, but in particular this one, because it's Barbie, it felt so much more kind of naughty in a good way, that we were putting in references that you know, there's like a Proust joke in the movie, and there's like a joke about the band Pavement, which is exactly. I mean,
explains its popularity.
Exactly. But I was at a screening that, you know, someone like, one of the ones I was standing in the back, and like he's like, remember Proust, Barbie? That did not sell. And one lady was like, ah! And I was like, it was for you. Actually, one thing that I thought was going to be like in Little Women, I was like, he's like, what women are let into the Club of Geniuses anyway? When she's like, the Brontes, I was like, that's a howler. Not one, no. I was like, they got in. I mean, the men were like, well, we'll give it to them. They did some good writing. Anyway, but I think I do enjoy having things that feel sort of specific and strange, and, you know, it's like you know, those Al Hirschfeld like caricature, the paintings he did. He did drawings for the New Yorker. They're all hanging in. Anyway, look them up. They're great. But he used to hide his daughter's name in every one. Her name was Nina, so you can look, and it's in the hair somewhere. It's her name. And I feel like doing jokes that feel extremely specific, it always feels like hiding Nina in a painting. Yes. Yes. Well, I will say I didn't necessarily, that's beautiful and thank you, and I didn't necessarily intend for those to be that way. I mean, it's sort of, in some ways, I think I'm a little bit of a stranger to myself in like a writing process, because I don't always know the thing I'm interested in while I'm in it, and then I look at it later and I'm like, oh, you're interested in girls. But to me, each time I'm like, ooh, this feels so different. But I am actually extremely interested in the lives of girls and women, as short story is that I like is titled. But I think it's something that I keep being drawn to, and I certainly haven't tired of it. But it's not a sort of a thesis in a way. But yes, I'm working on something right now. But I'm in the writing process, and it's hard, and I'm having nightmares. I'm having recurring nightmares. Please make your films. Make them. Yeah, I would say. I mean, in a way, it's sort of the number. I would say first, finding things that I loved was really loving something was the beginning of it, and when I started to see real films, real cinema from like authors that I could identify, like in college. There were big moments for me where I suddenly realized cinema had its own language and its own kind of set of impossible rules, but that they all got broken. It was just like I suddenly started seeing cinema for what it is, which is an art form. And so that love was the first thing. And then I actually it was like this combination of being able to make things with my friends and people who were around me, even before it was something that was kind of possible to make a career out of, which was lucky, but I also think findable, like people who love the same things you love and hate the same things you hate, and have this sort of same frustrations and excitement. Community, I think, is extremely important. And then I was given gifts by other filmmakers who were, ahead of me. I mean, obviously Noah, who's my partner in life, and also art was a huge part of that. But also certain directors I had worked with, Rebecca Miller or Mike Mills, were really encouraging. And then just at this moment, I realized that one of them is, and I've told this story to her, I realized Sally Potter is here. And I'm sort of emotional saying this, but she was someone who looked at me and saw that I wanted to direct. And it was before I had done it. And we were at a dinner and I was asking her about writing. And she said, "Why don't you ask me what you really want to ask me?" And I was like, what do I want to ask you? And she said, "You really want to ask me about directing?" And I was like, "How do you know?" And she said, "Because it's written all over you. It's very obvious." But I felt like I had the privilege of being seen by people. So I feel like finding your community, and then looking for your angels, I think they'll come. I mean, I've just been blessed to have those people come across my path, and I think you'll find them. Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it's sort of the same process, really. It's, I mean, with Barbie, I kind of, I know when I wrote it together, but initially it was like I just had all these different moments. Like I had this, like, I kind of went back and thought about, I was like, well, I must have someone just totally destroy a Barbie, like cut all the hair. Like I was like, that's true, yes. And then I was thinking about just all the things we do with Barbie. I thought about like how when I was a kid and I'd look at Barbies at the toy store and they were behind their boxes and they were perfect, and their hair, like the biggest Barbie was the one with the biggest hair, and the box was wide. It wasn't narrow, it was wide for her hair. And there was something about that I was like, I was just collecting sort of whatever moments and gathering them into something, and then I just kept doing that. And then I had enough of those moments that then I put it in front of Noah, and then he was like, "Oh, maybe there's something here." And then we started kind of going back and forth with it. But I have to say, it hasn't really changed for me. I've never quite figured out how to do it another way. If I could figure out how to like properly outline or like know where I'm going before I'm going there, I'd do it. It seems less, haphazard, but yeah, it does feel like I just gather things and then I kind of get a sense of it, and then I forge forward with what I've seen to have worked out. Oh yeah, well I do. I love acting, and again, it sort of depends on what it is. It does feel like similarly process of gathering, like little moments, little things that feel important to me for a character. The last time I did it was for Noah in White Noise, and it's a sort of heightened world in White Noise. They're not quite psychological characters in the same way that like a Tennessee Williams character is. It almost exists more in a literary sense. But I felt like since the whole movie and the book was kind of about this kind of the mechanisms we use to avoid the reality of death, I ended up reading just tons of death literature. And things I had avoided because I knew I wouldn't like to know. The death of Ivan Ilyich, which I studiously avoided. And then I finally was like, just read it. It's like 50 pages. And I did, and it's devastating. There was a reason I was avoiding it. It's great, and it's upsetting because it feels true. And so I tend to go to like reading, music. I played a character in Jackie, which was a movie directed by Pablo Larraín, and I played Nancy Tuckerman, who was a real person. So I did sort of research there, but also the way he was shooting it was so almost like poetic and gestural, that it was less about, nailing a thing and more about being open to this process. So I think as an actor, in some ways, I try to really put myself I like being in the hands of a director and giving kind of over to what they want. In a way, I'm the opposite of, that's why I've never acted in my own films, and I wouldn't want to, because I like giving over when I act, and I would deny myself the pleasure of both things if I did it, because I love watching actors act, and I love giving to a director, and if I had to act in my own thing, I wouldn't get any of it. So I won't do that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for your generous and thoughtful answers. Ladies and gentlemen, Greta Gerwig.